The India-Pakistan standoff at the border might have de-escalated, but the diplomatic tensions between the two neighbors continue. Indian efforts to name the Jaish chief Masood Azhar in the UN's most wanted list garnered international support, but Pakistan's old friend, China, proved the stumbling block again. Why is China so adamant in its refusal to name Azhar a terrorist? Why is it so supportive of Pakistan? We will try to address these and other questions while also gaining a sense of what must be done now by India and, more importantly, by Pakistan. Welcome to the New Indian Express podcast. I am Shubhendu Deshmukh and you are listening to Express Jukebox. This is the fourth consecutive time China has blocked India's move to list Masood Azhar as a global terrorist and demanded evidence. This is despite Jaish-e-Mohammed itself claiming the responsibility of the attack. But China supported Hafiz Saeed being tagged as a global terrorist. So what is the Chinese interest in blocking India's move on Masood Azhar? Ramanand Sen Gupta, who covers foreign affairs for the New Indian Express, explains why China continues to be Pakistan's friend.
Let's not go into China bashing. Let's try and understand why they did what they did. Now, China never does anything without giving it a lot of thought. So they are very unlikely to have taken this decision without having weighed all the pros and cons of the whole issue. About a week back, the Chinese vice foreign minister had visited Islamabad and he had met Imran Khan, the army chief, General Bajwa, and I think Shah Mahmood Qureshi, the foreign minister, what was going on kind of a thing. At that meeting, I believe that the listing of Masood Azhar was also brought up. And Pakistan apparently conveyed to him that if China did not block the issue once again, the Jaish-e-Mohammed might start targeting Chinese interests in Pakistan. Now, that's a very big sort of a threat to put up, because China has now started has a lot of interest in Pakistan. So that's one threat. The second part of it that we must keep in mind is that China extracts a quid pro quo for anything that it does with any country that it does. And in this case, part of the deal that they had with Pakistan is that none of these terrorist outfits would ever start operating in their Xinjiang province, where the Uyghurs, where China is mistreating Uyghurs. B, Pakistan would not protest against Chinese treatment of Muslims in Xinjiang. This is sort of a quid pro quo that I think the two countries had sort of come to. It must have weighed the economic considerations of what it has invested in Pakistan so far and, thought about it and said that can we risk all that,
So I would like to come in here. If you are saying that China's interests are there, the Balakot airstrikes which the Indian Air Force conducted, it's very near to the CPEC, if I'm not wrong. The China-Pakistan.
It goes through that part. Yes, of course it does.
And any further, and as India has earlier said that if there is any further escalation from the Pakistan side, then we'll have all our options on the table. So in this case, the CPEC is in danger, and because in that case we do not know what will be the magnitude of attack India might go for.
I would be really, really very surprised if India actually decided to try and attack CPEC targets, at least directly, because, you're opening up a third front, you're attacking a third country, in another country. So, so far all we have said is that we are very, very clearly just targeting only terrorist outfits. So I doubt very much that any economic interest or military interest in Pakistan would ever be attacked, because that could easily escalate that would be a declaration of war. So I don't think either of the countries or even China wants the two countries to go to war. But it keeps, and here's one more thing that I personally think that what China is doing is using Masood Azhar as a negotiating chip to perhaps, tell India that, look, why don't you join the Belt and Road Initiative meeting coming up later this month, and we'll immediately block this guy. Or that, support us in our attempts to sort of, get the Americans out of the South China Sea. Don't get involved with the Quad. It could ask for various variations of some of these things. Hafiz Saeed being banned, what did it ever do to Hafiz Saeed? He's still walking around freely in the country, right? What could this have achieved? I mean, what could, listing Masood Azhar as a terrorist, what could it have achieved except a very symbolic victory? But I think the intention would have been that if China had not blocked it this time, the significance of that would have been that Pakistan would have realized that China will not support it all the time. Okay. Now, there's a flip side to that. If China had, allowed this listing to go through, a lot of people would start accusing China of caving to pressure, to Indian pressure, to American pressure. Domestically, that would have been a bit of a, thing to deal with. I mean, nobody wants to be told that, oh, you caved into this guy's pressure.
We did airstrikes in Balakot, and
that's right.
After that, there had been retaliation from Pakistan also, from which the whole Abhinandan incident happened. Do you think that the Balakot airstrikes worked in India's advantage? And in relation to that, I would like to ask, has Pakistan done enough to get India to the negotiating table, and what it needs to do further?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Pakistan is playing the same old game, what I would call a very fake kind of measures. But, what they do is usually they say, okay, we're jailing this guy. You want him, they're jailing him. And then when the guy is taken to a Pakistani court, the government doesn't present any evidence. So the court is supposed to release the guy. And then they say, what can we do? The judiciary freed him. We that put him. The judiciary freed him. We are an independent country and we can't argue with the judiciary, which is ridiculous. But that's what they've been doing time and again, they've been doing just that. I think, every time there is pressure on Pakistan, they say, look, we're locking this guy up. 3 months later, the guy is freed. And by locking them up, it's not like they're put in jail. They're so-called house arrest where they live in luxury. So, yes. So now, if you look at India's sort of options, as for want of a better word, what do we do now? I think you will notice the UN has already started lobbying for a direct vote on this. Not something that can be vetoed by the Security Council, but a full direct vote. There is a movement going on within the UN to do that. Now, if Europe were to ban this guy, then the FATF would not even be justified enough to sort of, after all, the FATF is a Paris-based organization, but might be sort of, pressure to put Pakistan on the blacklist. Now, Pakistan is having a deep economic crisis at the moment. A lot of money has been pledged to it, but most of it hasn't yet arrived. So I think there are other ways to sort of put the squeeze on Pakistan, and India should not try to sort of, use this as sort of a brownie point saying, we have sort of, scored a point against China. I think India should do everything very quietly without too much of fuss.
Now this brings us to our next question about the leadership of Imran Khan. Pakistan has a history of military coups, with not a single democratically elected government being able to complete its full 5-year term. Whenever the Pakistan military thinks the leader's policies are going against their interests, the leader is removed. So by returning Abhinandan, has Imran Khan broken the shackles, or is he still a military puppet?
No, I am quite sure that he does nothing without clearance from GHQ and Rawalpindi. Whatever he does has to go through Rawalpindi. There is no doubt about it. However, Rawalpindi is not, stupid enough to think that you don't need some optics. In the sense that, releasing this guy very quickly, but that was also under immense international pressure, but making it seem like, that they're showing kindness and magnanimity was a brilliant move on their part. Because domestically, the whole world might know that, okay, he did it under pressure, but for Pakistan, it's like, our Prime Minister is a statesman. Okay. Even if you look at the narrative that's going on between, over this planes and the airstrikes, they're two very, very conflicting narratives. In Pakistan, it has become that, we saved the country from an Indian attack. And here we are saying, hey, we went and hit terrorists. And it's very, both sides, just like in the 1965 war, both sides have declared victory. And that's an interesting thing. The airstrike has a different purpose here. It signifies a very clear shift in the way India is dealing with it. Is going to deal with Pakistan. Now, I worry that, if you're going to say that every time there's a terrorist strike, I will, hit you with airstrikes, you're bound to have a situation where people will keep on trying to push you to do that. And the domestic side will expect you to do that. So our response should be that, yes, airstrikes was just one of the options. We have other options as to how to squeeze you. So that Pakistan is kept guessing. They can't just keep prodding us to see what it takes for us to retaliate.
But India is in full election mode. The battle of narratives has already begun. In such a situation, how will the talks move forward? In fact, this was also the stance of Pakistan PM when he recently spoke at an event there.
हमारा थोड़ा सा शायद मसला हो हिंदुस्तान के इलेक्शंस तक, क्योंकि जब आप इलेक्शन जीतने में नफरतों फैला के इलेक्शन जीतते हैं तो उसके अंदर फिर ये फ़ायदा उठाते हैं ये जो हुआ है कश्मीर में. लेकिन इंशाअल्लाह हमारी सारे नेबर से और इंक्लूडिंग हिंदुस्तान जब इनके इलेक्शंस हो जाएंगे हमारे सारे नेबर से हमारे अच्छे ताल्लुकात होंगे.
So will we have to wait for elections to get over to get the relations between India and Pakistan better? Ramanand doesn't think so.
I don't know about that because, let's assume that a week before the elections there's another strike. What will be the options left before the government? Will it again do another airstrike? Will it again do a surgical strike? Will it declare war? What will it do? And whatever it does, it's a knee-jerk reaction. You see, that's what I'm trying to say. That you should not declare intent by saying that, look, every time there's a terrorist strike, I will put an airstrike. Your position should be, at least the way I see it, should be that, which is what the government is saying anyway. They've never said that, we'll retaliate each time with an airstrike. What they've said is that we have our options open, and, that's an important statement to make. So we should be very nuanced in the way we deal with this. We should not, hype up the anti-China rhetoric, while at the same time working very hard to sort of, convince China that, look, we are one of their biggest trading partners. It's our trade surpasses the total investment that, I think, $56 or $60 billion. Trade is now about to hit $100 billion with India. So we need to now slowly start convincing China that, look, economically, if that's what you're worried about, it doesn't make sense for you to, even if you trade it off the two, if you weigh them, it's $60 billion that you're investing there, and our trade with you is $100 billion. That's one aspect. B, the former National Security Advisor of Afghanistan recently was, pulled up for making some remarks about American interests and things. But he had this very interesting remark to make. He said that, China saying that, linking good terrorism and bad terrorism like Pakistan had earlier done, is a very silly game, because though there has been an understanding between China and Pakistan that it will not Pakistanis will not interfere in Xinjiang, apparently Pakistan is doing so. And this is from the National Security Advisor of Afghanistan. Now, that's a very significant statement to make, because it undermines, Chinese interest.
The India-Pakistan-China tangle has been on for years. It will be interesting to see what the future holds, and will diplomacy hold the core again. Thanks for listening to New Indian Express podcast. If you like our show, please mention it in the comments section below. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and download the TNI mobile app for latest updates.